come in, everybody, do sit down. We are ready for our next session, which is a panel discussion, building scalable teams for a future fit workforce. It is, this one is powered by YunoJuno, and it is also chaired by João Martinez, who is the Chief Operating Officer at YunoJuno, and he will be introducing the rest of his panel. Round of applause, please, for the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be in here today, and thank you so much for joining. So today we will be speaking about agility and flexibility, and touching on a topic that is very relevant in these days. That's how you build scalable teams that are built for the future. So everyone knows that the landscape is evolving, and the needs and the dynamics in the market, they are quite fast. So we will be touching today on those topics, and I'm joined by a spectacular panel in here today that have very leadership positions at leading organizations. So starting with Ketna, do you want just to have a quick introduction?
Sure, thanks, João. Hi, I'm Ketna, and I currently head up our TNA, TA, and I'm lead business partner for Utility Warehouse. I've got a global background, having worked in America and Singapore as well, so covered the Asia-Pac market in technology companies as well as retail. I'll pass it over to you, Analu.
Thank you, John. Hi guys, I'm Analu. I have 20 years experience working in creative operations and the advertising side. Now I'm heading a global team, design setup, and yeah, great to be here. Thank you. Now over to Jess.
Hi everyone, my name is Jess. I have over 12 years experience in TA, basically hiring for software engineering companies and now with Netflix. And prior to that, I actually was in agency recruitment for about 5 years. And then now I say about 8 years overall in tech. So I'm excited to be here and have this conversation with these amazing people.
Perfect, thank you everyone. So just to set up a little bit of the context and why this topic is also very relevant to YunoJuno, we are a product and technology company, and we help companies to scale up and to actually build their organizations for the future. So we have been providing a solution that is powered by technology, and it also has a very big component around services to manage the full end-to-end contingent workforce solution. So basically, you can think about YunoJuno as the Airbnb or the Amazon, where you just select a contractor or a freelancer anywhere in the world, and we will do all the onboarding, compliance, payments, everything in one place, allowing you to focus on where actually you deliver the most value, that is driving business results. So I think it's always quite good to bring some stats when it comes to setting up the scene. We have picked up some stats from Staffing Industry Analyst and Gartner, and I think it's quite interesting that when looking at and asked if the HR and talent acquisition feels equipped to deliver the business results, if they have the skill sets, 83% of the respondents say that they don't feel equipped. Then it's quite interesting that even in a market where skills and jobs are more abundant, there is still 57% of respondents that will say that they don't have actually the skill sets required to deliver on their corporate performance because of skills shortage. And 65% of companies are actually considering to tap into contingent workforce and contractors to actually to deliver on the skill sets required. So this is definitely a trend, and I would like actually to start asking for Ketna what is driving the demand, and in your experience and in your organization, what are the factors that are driving you to move more towards this skills-based organization and leveraging also contractors?
Yeah, sure. I think there's 3 factors for us particularly. One of those is kind of the global economic uncertainty and increase in labor costs. Like a lot of organizations, we've gone through right sizing, and we're feeling that increased pressure in terms of building a sustainable cost model when it comes to workforce. So partly tapping into flexible talent allows us a more cost-effective way on really leveraging the right skills for the moment in time and thinking about what skills do we need to double down on for the future. Alongside that, again, technological advancements and transformation, project work's on the rise within our organization. So again, how can we think about flexibly tapping into that more cost effectively? It's faster to market, it gives us agility to flex up and down and scale. And finally, talent market demands. Great talent is out there, and actually a lot of them want more flexibility. We're seeing an increase in the gig economy, we're seeing the aging global population. People want to work, but they want flexibility within that. So this helps us tap into that talent where we've got skill shortages internally.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So, Anna, do you feel the same?
It's quite similar, but I think like I'm on creative side, so creative operations. After the pandemic, we had a lot of people leaving the big cities, and now that we have this hybrid kind of work, it's, for me, when a brief lands at 6 p.m. on a Friday before a bank holiday, I'm able to basically send like WhatsApp messages. Are you available to work this weekend? Are we available to work on Monday bank holiday? They say yes. I send the contract and that's done. I'm ready to brief them. So that's exactly what I think. Yeah, it's similar. It's a different industry, but it's similar. I need to have agility, flexibility, and I need to be really quick to react.
So, Anna, it feels like that in your case, the time to hire is quite important.
Yes.
And is that in a particular part of the organization, or you see that now moving along in the wider context of where you need to be to remain competitive?
I think right now, in the corporation that I'm working at PepsiCo, I think it's more a case of like the creativity and the design side as well. For the marketing team, we have more flexibility to have more time to hire people, to find people. But that's the thing, like with the market team, they are so reactive as a global role that we need to react to the different markets. And sometimes I don't have the design skill set that I need. I don't have that specific motion that is TikTok savvy inside the team. So I need to go outside and hire for a week. So yeah.
Okay, so you are hiring really for speed and for like
Yes,
particular
100%.
skills.
Yeah, and obviously to be cost efficient, I'm not hiring someone, a perm person, to be there because they know about TikTok. Then next week is another social media that is exploding. So I need to have this flexibility.
No, that's very, very good. And Jess, what about you? In your experience, any of these ones that are resonating with you?
100%. I think from the cost perspective, if we think about all the layoffs that are happening, I think organizations are trying to be a lot more, I'll say smarter with the way that they hire. So there's like overhead costs and extra additional costs that are associated to labor that are impacted, right, at the end of the day. So what happens is when you do all these redundancies, you think you're saving money, but then again, you feel like you need these people. So we find that we either hire them back as contractors. Even in my previous show prior to Netflix, we had to go the contractor route because we needed certain skill sets that we couldn't easily find in the market. And they want to be freelancers, or they want to come in on a part-time basis. And that's what we need at a set time. If you think about it from a creative standpoint, to your point, on the Netflix side, for instance, on the content side, there are certain roles that we don't necessarily have to hire full-time, because we need them for a production, not for a full-time role. And we need to bring in freelancers or contractors. So I think from a cost perspective, that works. And I think in many organizations, when you lay people off, that comes with additional costs when it comes to severance and stuff. Frankly, it's just a lot cheaper as well. It's like smarter talent, smarter hiring. You hire them. If you need to let them go for whatever reason, whether it's a business reason or an economical reason, then at least it's an easier conversation to have. Yeah. And you can part ways and say goodbye easily. So I'd say from a cost perspective, there's that. Then also from a time to hire perspective, there are certain specialized and niche roles that just takes way longer to hire for. Like you would be, I'm talking months, 6 months even, just trying to find the right talent, especially when you work with a company that cares deeply about like who you're hiring. The culture is a big part of, the way that we hire. So sometimes we definitely have to leverage contingent workforce versus like bringing you in full time, because it's a need for a specific period of time, and we just want to fill that gap. And then in the long run, if we do decide that we want to convert them, then it's like a mutually beneficial relationship when it comes to that. So I'd say that's been my experience, even outside of Netflix and prior to Netflix as well.
Okay, so it's quite interesting to hear that because it feels that you are moving from a more rigid model where before it was just focused on permanent to a blended where you take into account permanent headcount, but then you start planning strategically with contingent labor. Would that be the case?
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, it's a slow journey, but it's happening. It wouldn't be like 50-50. It could be an 85-15 or an 80-20, as the case may be. And I think it shows up differently for different organizations, right? And different teams or functions within the organization. So like you said, for marketing and setting, it might look differently from, I don't know, operations or HR or business strategy. It would definitely look different. So I guess where the companies need to take, heed is what makes sense for what teams, not just for the organization at large, but like what teams need this type of tailored service or this type of tailored hybrid model.
Okay, so that leads us very well to the next question that we want to discuss today is actually the evolution, right? Because as you mentioned, Jess, like there's going to be a movement from a more focus of TA and HR on permanent, and where otherwise in the past contingent and contracts were sitting more with the procurement side, but it starts to be a change going and be part of the strategic plan of the future HR and talent acquisition functions. So, Ketan, do you see that in your organization?
Yeah, I mean, over the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, we've definitely started seeing that shift. Initially, it started within our tech organization with the war on talent. This is where we started tapping into building a fully remote international workforce through an EOR, which really helped us tap into the right talent, reduce risk of attrition within the UK in particular, but also gave us more flexibility. Where we've moved forward really in the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months is thinking about offshore outsourcing, in particular for our call-facing high-volume teams. Again, the cost to serve there was significant, so going back to one of those key factors being cost and economic uncertainty, what we really wanted to do is have an agile team that we could flex up and down with customer demand without having to have that fully loaded cost within our own P&L. So actually offshoring outsourcing and with a South African partner has enabled us to do that and reinvest and double down on our investment for digital transformation, which will actually fundamentally mean we'll reduce the need for those onshore teams longer term. So again, to your point earlier, rather than hiring teams in and reducing them and going through the severance cost of that, not only the cost of it, but the culture damage cost of that, this is really helping us future-proof in terms of where we want to be from a digital perspective and the customer experience lens as well.
Any learnings that you can share? What was the biggest resistance and challenge in moving from one to another one?
I think, look, the biggest resistance to change is mindset. In particular, leader mindset. For us, our leaders have the multiplier effect, right? So really getting our leaders to embrace the idea of thinking differently and then embedding that kind of culture where it's okay to outsource offshore. It's not going to damage our customer experience. What's in our control and what's not in our circle of control. So really focusing on how do we equip leaders to own that with their teams has been really key for us.
That's a good point, mindset changing and change management. So, Annalu, I can see that you are
nodding. Yeah, no, it made me remind about a lot of stuff, the conversation. When I was working at Saatchi & Saatchi, we start offshoring. But I think I was doing creative/design operations. I was more focused on design operations, and we had 70% of the workforce, they were contractors. And on top of that, because it's massive. On top of that, obviously, creative agencies, we deal with a lot of pitches as well. So we need to be able to flex a lot. And on top of that, we had offshore. We were offshoring in Brazil. We were offshoring in Costa Rica as well. And then when I moved from Saatchi to AMV, it was the same thing. We were offshoring in India, and then we started offshoring South Africa. And there was half and half. Half contractors, half firm team. And I think the future, I was talking to a few people in the advertising industry, and what they want with all the changes, economy changes and everything, political changes, is to keep the core team tighter,
Absolutely.
And then we have the flexibility to bring in these very hyper specialized freelancers to fit in and to fill in, to help us to deliver what we need for that specific ask. Sometimes we're not pitching for clients, we're pitching for projects.
Yeah.
So it's even more specific.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And Jess, in the tech industry, do you see the same? Because we have touched on utility and energy and product and tech, and also more on the fast-moving consumer goods and creative. Do you see that same trend in the tech?
I mean, yeah. I think what is the differentiating factor is the product, right? So, because the product is what determines the types of teams that you hire. It is what determines the structure of the team and all of that. But I think ultimately, yes. I mean, even at Andela was an American software engineering firm, and our goal at the time was to train software engineers in Africa and then place them with the IBMs of the world, the Netflix, the Googles, and all of that, right? And we saw a shift in the way that we were operating. So we did that for 4 years, and eventually we had to switch that model into hiring contractors, right? So again, it depends on the product. It depends on what the market is saying, because it's a demand and supply environment, right? So you can't keep doing things in a certain way when you're seeing that the market is shifting. And the way that that would be implemented is through what Ketna said around leadership mindset. Because if the leaders are very stuck in their ways, it's no change in your results. So you just stay stuck. But if you do apply some flexibility in the way that you want to operate, one, you're going to have a much happier workforce, because you're giving people, to some extent, to a large degree, what they want in terms of what brings them satisfaction in the way that they work. So if someone wants to be a freelancer, or they thrive a lot more just being in a contractor position where, again, you can bid each other farewell when the time comes easily, then let's do that, right? So I feel like that's happening, but again, depend on the products, depend on the specific industry in terms of the niche, and then you can then decide, what makes sense for you. But ultimately, it is a big thing happening. It's just the journey looks different for company A versus company B, so I think that's the thing. But it's something, I don't think anyone is resisting it right now. It's here. It's here. So
on touching on the point that you just mentioned, what's right for you. So how do you actually identify what are the core capabilities and the skills? Because in the past, people talked a lot about roles. My personal opinion is that roles will not disappear.
Yeah.
It's just an evolution that now we talk about roles in conjunction with skills.
Yeah.
And you map your organization by roles, and in addition to that, you will start mapping it with skills. Now, through this change management, and now that people are more receptive, and kind of the industry and the technology changes are also helping with that, just how do you identify core capabilities and what's going to be permanent, and then what are the specific skills that you need?
So the thing is, from a TA perspective, if you are in a role where you're focused a lot on volume, this is a very hard thing to achieve, because you're just basically, a service provider in some sense. The business says we need X, Y, Z, and then you're just running to make those hires. But the best way to partner with the business is exactly this, from a TA perspective. So what we do is, for TA, we work very closely with HRBPs, that's the talent partners in the organizations that work very closely with the actual business functions. So what we do is, before we even go into succession planning, is sitting down with each functional leader to understand, listen, what are you guys trying to achieve in terms of where the business is going the next 5 years, for instance, and then look at what you have currently on the team and decide what you need to excel or meet the business goals via your function, right? So once you establish what is needed, you can then look at, this is what the team makeup is like. That influences how we hire. So if a hiring manager comes and shares a job description, we then challenge that job description, hey, we know what your team is missing. We know what you have at the moment. This looks like a replica of what you already have. Let's switch this up. That's how we partner. So the best way is to first identify what you have at the moment, and then identify what you need to have in the next year or 2 years. So when we think about hiring, it then goes beyond the actual role or job description. It now is a matter of skills. And sometimes the skills are obviously 100% directly related to the work you'd be doing, but there are these other skill sets that may not necessarily be tied, but it's complementary to the overall team makeup. So that's the best way that we do that. So it's basically identifying what those strengths are within the team, what you need to have that you don't have at the moment, and then plan with your hiring strategy how you're going to achieve that. And then there's also the internal hiring bits and succession hiring, succession planning, which is internal. Think about people on your team that have certain skill sets. Should we do project-based, work where, we need to experiment and know what is needed? Think about people who are like managers or directors who can be their backup in the future, say they were to leave tomorrow. So I think all that planning is very essential to identifying the core capabilities and then obviously designing what that would look like for your team moving forward.
So two things resonate with me, planning and partnership,
100%.
and moving from a reactive actually to proactive.
It would be a dream. Yeah, imagine.
The dream.
That's the dream. It's hard, but yes.
Ketna, can you talk us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, I mean, we're still on that journey, and I've got to say, we've gone a level up, right? So from an organizational perspective, what we're really discussing at the moment is, what is our superpower? What are the organizational capabilities that we want to be known for, and what are they not? Mm-hmm. And then that helps us leverage in a more cost-effective way, what do we want to focus on? Where do we want to build on our talent? And where do we want to buy? And if we're going to buy, one of the key things that we're doing is really stress testing at the moment with flexible solutions. So actually, are we really sure we need to buy that skill set in? Let's stress test it. Let's bring freelance in. Let's bring, a more flexible resource in and really understand whether that works in our current target operating model. Alongside that, really, what we want to do is focus more on talent intelligence internally, so that skills-based marketplace, and that's really something that actually one of my teams really focusing on at the moment in terms of how do we really understand the current makeup of skills across the org, break down the silos and mobilize that talent more effectively across the organization with the tacit knowledge that we have and the skills, and really think about the future of our workforce. Mm-hmm.
So, Ketna, I think quite interesting. So mapping and moving to the skill base, it's a different game than the typical HR systems.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of support. So how are you enabling the organization from a technology perspective for these internal marketplaces, for supporting contingent workforce? So what's been the approach so far?
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting. I would love to get other people's ideas on this, because this is something that we have just scratched the surface of. Not that I want lots of sales calls or anything like that, but how we're doing at the moment is we're currently using our current tech stack, right? So our recruitment stack, our HRIS, would I say it's fit for purpose? Not really. We're kind of hacking around it and seeing what can we do to test, again, the concept in terms of gig economy internally. How can we stress test kind of secondments internally, using our talent partners, so our HRBPs and our squads, to think, are we actually thinking, what skills have we got in one function over another, and breaking those silos, again, to my earlier point. Have we got the right technology to do that effectively? No. But again, it's investment, and you've got to prioritize which investment you're going after, right? So I would love to hear from other people. I don't know how, Anna-Lou, if you guys are doing anything in that space, or Jess, or anyone else.
I think, like, for me, the best thing to plan is to have visibility, and obviously leading with creative operations is, I don't have a lot of visibility of anything that's happening, because everything can change next week.
Yeah.
So we have a plan. We know that we always have Christmas in December, but we always receive the brief in December. So it's like, shocking. But I think, like, from the creative side and advertising side, design side, I think we are more used to use the freelancer contractors. So we're more used to the flexibility. And what we're doing right now in my team and PepsiCo is more like a blend again. We have the core team making sure that we are the brand guardians, and they will be the ones managing the contractors and making sure that we have sometimes like one designer on Pepsi, and then he has 3-4 contractors helping him to manage the workload. We have trackers as well. We have like a software that we just implemented that is going really well. People are loving it, to understand what people are doing every single day, which gives me visibility as well. Oh, we have motion designers, they are all fully booked. So let me have a conversation with the marketing team to understand if the local markets will need more guidance on the motion principles from their side as well, which means that maybe in the future I have to have a perm person to be the core person for motion inside to give guidance for all the contractors. For now, what we have 4 motion designers working alongside our designers. But yeah, I'm also with you. It's kind of very organic. We need to understand what it works, and mainly the mindset, the change of implementing another tool.
Yeah.
I need to learn another thing. It's really difficult to educate people, mainly the ones that have been working this way for the last 15 years, and everything happened, so I don't know why we need to change now. And then we are the ones telling them, because it's 2025, because Trump is here, because we don't know what's happening tomorrow, so we need to prep ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically that. The struggle is real,
Yeah.
not personal.
It's good to know.
Jess, before we go to questions,
Yes.
very quickly, any particular technologies that you are using and supporting?
I mean, to be honest, I think we're still on the same level, to be honest. It's funny that you think, like, most of the biggest established organizations, you think you have it figured out. No, we don't.
Exactly.
We're still very much in that journey as well. I think even I can bring it down to like my team, for instance, right? Even for like capacity modeling and all that, thinking about, how many recruiters do you need per this, we're still figuring that out. It's still very scrappy. But yes, there are technologies and tools that have been introduced, and we're still very much in the trial and error phase. I was just saying to you earlier, like we tried a new ATS that is fully AI leveraged, and it's a mess. It's a mess. So again, we're still figuring it out. But I think what's important is the mindset is there, the interest is there, the intentionality is there. It's just going to be a long journey, is what I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, because even the guys who are creating these tools are still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the journey. All right, so thank you very much. Just opening the floor for questions. We have one in the front.
Thank you. You talk about mindset and embracing change as a huge blocker to what your guys are doing. So how do you overcome that? How do you work with people to get them on board and I guess shift perspectives, really?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this and pass on. For us, addressing the fear factor has been massive. How we've done that is, as I mentioned earlier, our people leaders do have the multiplier effect. We know that from our EMPS surveys. They are extremely powerful in our organisation. So we've doubled down on investing in them to really shift their mindset, to focus on the value add. How can they move their organisation and their function forward by actually thinking differently? Obviously, having gone through a period of right sizing has been tough culturally. Nobody in the organisation wants to go through that again. So that in itself has forced this mindset to think differently, to think about making decisions in a different way. It's not coming naturally. I mean, I admit it, yesterday, in fact, I was on a call with our recruitment team challenging on the need for 30 new sales hires. And that's onshore, and not thinking more creatively about that. And again, it's a little bit like, but can we challenge this person? Yes, it feels like we should, but is it the right thing to do? Is it above my pay grade? So a bit of it is actually instilling and empowering teams as well through your role as a people leader. The other side of things is really kind of breaking down the silos. So that's a big focus for us this year in particular. It's thinking about how can we drive agility in our culture. So one of our biggest kind of DNA factors is we work together, and that's what we're really thinking about, is how do we look at that DNA index over the year and really drive that forward in terms of breaking down silos cross collaboratively, and that's working from the exec team all the way down. So we're thinking more about how can we work in squads outside of tech and product, but in the wider organization. So that's just some of the things we're really focusing on this year.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. From my side, I think you need to have a lot of patience.
That too.
Mm-hmm. Resilience. Go to the meeting smiling always. And every single complaint, you need to answer with with a lot of positivity. But I think it's a process and educating. Imagine, I hate SharePoint, but I have to deal with it every single day. and I have to deal with Microsoft stuff. And I'm telling these people that, hey, this new software, new training, new process, all these steps that it takes time for them to, and when you really believe on that, it's like, I believe in YunoJuno, I believe in I believe in Resource Guru, that all the platforms that I'm implementing, it's easier, because if they have a question, I will be the master of that software. They come to me, we have a conversation, and then I start making them understand my brain behind hiring that platform. And then, yeah, but will not be in a week, sorry to say that. Will take like a few months.
Yeah, definitely takes time. She's got a question.
Have to.
And then she in front as well.
Oh, yeah. It sounds a little bit like, theoretically, the answer to all your dreams is strategic workforce planning, right? Long-term vision and all this kind of great thing around build, buy, borrow, and where should we run for. But also listening to you, it sounds like things are just too wild, too unpredictable, too much new tech, too many different things happening that having someone just do a PowerPoint that's out of date next week is no longer useful. So my question is, do you think if there was resource available, as people on the front line, would that be useful to you? Or would you prefer that kind of resource and energy be spent on maybe tech or more things where you could experiment and figure out the answer?
Yeah. Take it?
No, you can go.
For us, we've used strategic workforce planning tech in our customer call centers, the high volume areas. And I'll be honest with you, it's only as good as the input, right? The users and the input around. So I don't think it's a silver bullet for us, particularly. The fact is, all that chaos is not just an organizational thing, right? It's a global, economic, sociological, technological
100%.
world we live in, right? The world is in constant change. That's not going to change. So we need to almost like create a world where we're agile with that. And I think that's why I don't think technology is always the answer for us, particularly as an organization. What we're really good at, and we were talking about this earlier actually, is adopting technology to solve the problem. So often it's people-led. It's very much around where's the problem, how can technology support the solution as well.
Streamline, yeah.
That's very much our approach at UW. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it's the same thing at PepsiCo. Like that's why when you talk like, oh, PepsiCo, amazing, but there lack of process sometimes that people have been doing the same things for a long time, and when you implement something new and we have the problems with the cultural, people are not accepting that, but I think like when they understand that we want to streamline, and some people that they are used to the 47 emails for one single subject, and when you have a platform that you can find all the information and people communicate through there, and you don't need to finish your day with 129 emails unread, which gives me anxiety, by the way. I think with time it can change. Yes, I'm with you on this one as well.
Yeah. I think what I'd add to that, beyond what they've said, is technology helps, but it's not everything, right?
No.
The two things that would, in terms of influencing, for instance, would be obviously leveraging data and all of that, but more importantly is having the right people. And I think that's where leadership, sometimes, they take the back seat in making the tough decisions. So as much as we go through all of these conversations and then, try to get them,
The decision makers, right?
like, listen, we need to be able to get to a point where if it's not working because of this level of resistance, let's find the right people to get us to the next level, right? So I think beyond technology, that would be the bits that I'd add. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but sometimes it's difficult to
So
convince
I think
It's hard.
we are at time now.
Oh, we are.
Already? Oh,
Thank you so much for everyone for joining.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Zhao. Thank you, Ketna, Analu, and Jess. Round of applause from the audience. Thank you for YunoJuno for sponsoring. I know you've got more questions. These guys will be very happy to answer them afterwards. We've got a very short break, slightly shorter than planned, but it's not a problem. We've got lessons from the front line, how Cadent Gas is building a future-ready workforce. It's going to be powered by SAP, and we'll be back here in about 6 or 7 minutes. I'll see you then. Thanks very much.